The crimson light of Proxima Noctis bled through every viewport of Umbral Station, casting the corridors in perpetual twilight. Dr. Nathan Cole had spent 6 months learning to navigate these blood-red shadows, had grown accustomed to the way the dying star's radiation painted everything in shades of rust and burgundy. What he hadn't grown accustomed to was the feeling of being watched. He paused at the junction of corridors B7 and C3, ostensibly checking his datapad but actually scanning the darkness ahead. Nothing moved in the crimson gloom, but that tingling at the base of his neck refused to subside. Someone, or something, was there. "You know," came a voice from the shadows, melodic and layered with harmonics that made his chest resonate. "For a xenobiologist, you're remarkably unaware of your surroundings." Nathan turned slowly, and she emerged from the darkness like she was part of it, which he supposed she was. Seraphine of House Velcora, the Vesperi delegation's lead researcher, stepped into the dim light with fluid grace that made human movement look clumsy by comparison. "I was aware," Nathan said, willing his heart rate to slow down. "I just wasn't certain who was there." "Liar." She smiled, and he caught the briefest glimpse of ivory fangs behind purple dark lips. "Your pulse spiked the moment I entered this section. I could hear it from 30 meters away." Nathan filed that information away. 30 meters of auditory range for a heartbeat. Impressive and slightly terrifying. "Is there something I can help you with, Dr. Velcora?" "Seraphine, we're colleagues, Nathan. May I call you Nathan?" "Of course." She moved closer and he caught her scent, something floral and dark, like orchids blooming in moonlight. Her burgundy eyes studied him with an intensity that made him feel like a specimen under a microscope. The pointed tips of her ears, longer and more elegant than any elf from human mythology, seemed to twitch slightly as she assessed him. "I was hoping to discuss your research on the bioluminescent organisms from Proxima Noctis B," she said. "Your methodology for studying nocturnal adaptations is fascinating. My people have much experience with darkness-dwelling species. I'd be honored by your input. Want to head to the lab?" "Lead the way." They walked together through the crimson corridors, and Nathan found himself hyper-aware of her presence beside him. She moved without sound, her feet barely seeming to touch the floor. Occasionally her hand would brush against his when the corridor narrowed, and her skin was cool, not cold exactly, but noticeably cooler than human temperature. "Tell me about your work before Umbral Station," she said as they walked. "Your file mentions you studied extremophiles on Europa. Fascinating career progression, from ice moons to red dwarf systems." "You read my file." "I read everyone's file. Know thy colleagues, Nathan. It prevents misunderstandings." Her smile this time revealed more of her fangs, and he noticed how elegantly they curved, like scimitars carved from bone. "Besides, I find you particularly interesting." "Why me?" She stopped walking, and he stopped with her, turning to face her fully. In the red light, her pale skin seemed to glow with inner luminescence, and her dark hair moved slightly in the station's recycled air currents, giving her an otherworldly appearance. "Because you look at me without fear," she said simply. "Most humans, when they first meet a Vesperi, cannot hide their terror. Your vampire myths have made you see us as monsters, predators, creatures of nightmare. But you." She tilted her head, studying him. "You look at me with curiosity, with wonder. It's refreshing." Nathan considered this. Yes, when he'd first seen the Vesperi delegation arrive, there had been initial alarm. Their appearance was startlingly similar to vampire legends, after all. But his scientific training had quickly overridden his mythological conditioning. "You're not myths. You're a sophisticated species with fascinating biological adaptations. Your fangs aren't for killing, they're bonding organs. Your nocturnal nature isn't evil, it's evolutionary adaptation to your homeworld's conditions. Why would I fear you?" Seraphine's expression shifted, becoming something softer, more vulnerable. "Most humans can't separate knowledge from instinct. You can. That makes you rare." They continued to the lab in companionable silence, and Nathan found himself oddly pleased by her assessment. When they entered the research space, the blue glow of bioluminescent specimens in containment units mixed with the ever-present red ambient lighting, creating a purple twilight that seemed to energize Seraphine. "Beautiful," she murmured, moving toward the containment units with genuine fascination. "These organisms have adapted to survive on minimal light. My species would find kinship with them." "They've developed alternative sensory methods," Nathan explained, pulling up holographic displays of his research. "Instead of relying on sight, they use chemical signaling, subtle vibrations, and bioluminescence for communication." "Like us?" Seraphine traced a finger along the containment unit's surface. "Vesperi evolved on a world of perpetual twilight. We see, yes, but we feel more. Every vibration, every scent, every emotional resonance in a room, we process it all simultaneously. That must be overwhelming." "It can be, especially around humans." She turned to face him, leaning against the containment unit. "Your species broadcasts emotions like radio signals. Fear, desire, anger, joy, it all pulses from you constantly. Most Vesperi find it exhausting. But not you." "I find it." She paused, searching for the right word. "Intoxicating. Your emotions are so vivid, so immediate. My people feel deeply, but we've learned to control it over centuries. Humans feel everything with such fierce urgency." Nathan moved to his workstation, but his attention remained on her. "Is that why you chose this assignment, to study humans?" "Partly." She followed him, standing close enough that he could feel the coolness radiating from her skin. "And partly because I hope to find something I've been searching for." "What's that?" Her burgundy eyes met his, and for a moment he saw something ancient and lonely in their depths. "Connection, true connection. My species bonds for life, Nathan. We share our very essences with our chosen partners, but finding that connection has proved difficult. Because you're surrounded by humans who fear you." "Because I'm surrounded by beings who see my fangs and see threat, not tenderness." She smiled sadly. "Do you know what the bonding ritual actually involves?" Nathan nodded. "Fang sharing. A biological mechanism for forming permanent emotional connections." Clinical terminology, but essentially correct. She leaned closer, and he caught another wave of her intoxicating scent. "Our fangs contain specialized organs that, when they pierce skin, establish a neurochemical bond. We share memories, emotions, instincts. We become part of each other." "It sounds intimate." "More intimate than your species can imagine." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "We taste the very soul of our partner, their fears, their desires, their essence, and they taste ours." Nathan's scientific mind warred with something more primal as he processed her words. The researcher in him wanted to study this phenomenon, to understand the biochemistry and neural pathways involved. But the man in him responded to the yearning in her voice, the loneliness that echoed his own. "Why tell me this?" he asked, his voice slightly hoarse. Seraphine straightened, and her careful professional mask slipped back into place, though not quite as firmly as before. "Because you asked. Because you listen without judgment. Because—" She trailed off, then shook her head. "We should focus on the research. These organisms are fascinating." The moment broke, but something lingered between them, an awareness, a tension that hadn't existed before. They spent the next 3 hours examining specimens, sharing observations, and building a collaborative framework for their research. Seraphine's insights were brilliant, her understanding of nocturnal biology adding dimensions to his work he hadn't considered. But underneath the professional exchange, Nathan felt her attention on him constantly, not predatory but curious, drawn. And he found his own attention drifting to her repeatedly. The elegant curve of her ears, the way shadows seemed to cling to her like a second skin, the brief flashes of Fang when she smiled. When they finally finished, the station's artificial night had fully descended, dimming the already dim lights to near darkness. Seraphine seemed more comfortable in this deeper shadow, more herself. Thank you for this, she said as they prepared to leave. Working with you is stimulating. Likewise, your expertise is invaluable. She moved toward the door, then paused, turning back to him. In the near darkness, her eyes seemed to glow faintly, and her fangs caught what little light remained. Nathan, one last question. Yes. Does my appearance truly not frighten you? The fangs, the predatory nature, the darkness I carry. He considered the question carefully before answering. No, you're different from me, yes, but different doesn't mean dangerous. Besides, you're clearly not interested in me as prey. Her laugh was a beautiful sound like bells in darkness. No, Nathan, not as prey. Something flickered in her expression, heat, interest, hunger of a different sort. Good night, Doctor Cole, I look forward to our next session. She disappeared into the shadows so completely that if he hadn't seen her leave, he wouldn't have known she was gone. Nathan stood alone in the lab, surrounded by the soft blue glow of the bioluminescent creatures, his heart beating faster than professional interest warranted. Outside the viewport, Proxima Noctis pulsed with its ancient red light, and Nathan wondered what he'd just gotten himself into. Seraphine was clearly interested in him. In what capacity, he wasn't entirely certain. But one thing was clear. His carefully structured life on Umbral Station had just become significantly more complicated. And as he made his way back to his quarters through the crimson-lit corridors, he found he wasn't entirely opposed to the complication. The weeks that followed were a study in escalating tension. Nathan and Seraphine fell into a routine: research during station day, shared meals during transition periods, and long conversations during station night when she was most alert, and he was supposed to be sleeping, but found himself unable to. He learned things about her piece by piece, like assembling a portrait from fragments. She was older than he'd imagined, nearly 3 centuries by human counting, though she looked barely older than him. Her species lived long lives, she explained, which made forming connections both more valuable and more cautious. When you might spend centuries with someone, she told him one evening as they walked through the station's arboretum, you become very selective about who you allow into your soul. The arboretum was her favorite place on the station. The bioluminescent plants provided soft blue light that mixed pleasantly with the eternal red glow, and the living things seemed to respond to her presence, their light brightening as she passed. Is that why Vespri bonding is so rare? Nathan asked, watching her trail her fingers through a patch of glowing moss. Partly. The bond is permanent, Nathan. Once formed, it cannot be broken. We carry each other always, through distance, through time, through everything. Choosing wrongly means centuries of regret. Have you ever come close to bonding? She was quiet for a long moment, and he sensed he'd touched on something painful. Once, 2 centuries ago, a Vespri male from a prominent house. We seemed compatible, similar ages, similar interests, similar social standing. What happened? We were performing the preliminary rituals, the steps that lead to the full bonding. During the sharing of surface emotions before the permanent bond, I realized. She stopped walking, her burgundy eyes distant. I realized he saw me as a prize, not a partner, a trophy to elevate his house's status. The emotions he shared were ambition and pride, not love. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me valuable lessons about looking beyond the surface. She turned to him, and her expression held something raw, vulnerable. It's why I appreciate your transparency so much. You hide nothing, Nathan. Your emotions broadcast clearly, your curiosity, your wonder, your growing attraction to me that you try so hard to ignore. Nathan felt his face heat. I'm not trying to ignore. Yes, you are, and I understand why. I'm alien. I have fangs. My species feeds on emotional connections in a way that seems predatory to humans. She stepped closer, and the scent of night-blooming flowers intensified. But you should know, what I feel for you isn't predation. It's recognition. Recognition of what? Of a kindred spirit. Someone who sees the universe with wonder instead of fear. Someone who seeks to understand rather than to conquer. Her cool fingers brushed his cheek. Someone whose fire calls to my darkness. Nathan's breath caught. Her touch was electric despite its coolness, and he found himself leaning into it rather than pulling away. Seraphine, I'm not sure this is wise. Wisdom is overrated. She smiled, and her fangs gleamed in the blue light. Tell me you feel nothing. Tell me this connection we're building is purely professional. Tell me your heart doesn't race when I'm near. He couldn't, because his heart was racing had been for weeks. Every time she entered a room, every time her fingers accidentally brushed his, every time she laughed at something he said, his entire being responded to her. I don't know what I feel, he admitted. Attraction, yes, but also uncertainty. You're talking about permanent bonds, about sharing souls. I'm human, Seraphine. We form attachments quickly and break them just as fast. What if I'm not capable of what you need? What if you're more capable than you think? She dropped her hand, giving him space, but her eyes remained locked on his. Humans feel with such intensity precisely because your lives are brief. Every emotion is urgent, meaningful. That intensity is what draws me to you. They stood there in the soft blue glow, two beings from different worlds trying to navigate an attraction that defied easy categorization. Finally, Seraphine sighed. I'm pushing too hard. Forgive me. My age should have taught me patience. You're not pushing. You're being honest about your feelings. I appreciate that. Do you, or does it frighten you? Nathan considered. Yes, there was fear of the unknown, of crossing boundaries that seemed absolute. But there was also exhilaration, the same feeling he got when discovering something new in his research. Both, he admitted. But I've learned that the most interesting discoveries often come from the most frightening questions. Seraphine's expression softened into something achingly tender. Then perhaps we continue asking questions, taking things slowly. I have no wish to overwhelm you, Nathan. I've waited centuries for this feeling. I can wait a while longer for you to be ready. Ready for what exactly? For whatever we become. She smiled, and this time there was pure warmth in it. Come, let's return to our research. These plants won't analyze themselves. They returned to their work, but something had shifted between them. The tension remained, but it was tempered now by mutual acknowledgement. They both knew the path they were walking, even if they couldn't see its end. Over the following days, their conversations deepened. Seraphine shared more about Vesperi society, their complex family structures based on emotional bonds rather than biological reproduction, their art that existed in layers humans couldn't perceive, their philosophy of darkness not as absence of light but as presence of possibility. In return, Nathan shared his humanity, the brief bright flame of human life, the way mortality made every experience precious, the fierce attachments humans formed despite knowing they would be broken. She seemed fascinated by human impermanence, asking endless questions about how his species found meaning in such short existences. You burn so brightly because you burn briefly, she observed one night in the lab, watching him work with passionate focus on a breakthrough in his research. It's beautiful and tragic simultaneously. Is that why you're interested in me? Because I'm tragic. I'm interested in you because you're alive in a way my species has forgotten to be. We've grown so careful with our long lives that we've become cautious about living them. She moved to stand beside him. You remind me that sometimes risks are worth taking. Nathan set down his instruments and turned to face her fully. In the mixed light of the lab, she looked both ethereal and achingly real. Without thinking, he reached up and traced the elegant point of her ear with his finger. She shivered at the touch, her eyes fluttering closed. May I? He asked. Yes, she breathed. He explored the ear's structure gently, fascinated by the different textures, the way she responded to his touch. When his fingers brushed a particularly sensitive spot, she made a sound that wasn't quite human, a low resonance that he felt in his bones. Your ears are beautiful, he murmured. They're considered our most attractive feature among my kind, used in courtship rituals. She opened her eyes and they were darker than before, almost black. Nathan. Yes. I need to tell you something, show you something. She stepped back, putting distance between them, though he could see it cost her. You've seen me controlled, careful, but that's not all of what I am, if you're truly considering. Whatever this is between us, you need to see me fully, unmasked. His scientific curiosity immediately engaged. What do you mean? Come to my quarters tomorrow night. Station time 2300. I'll show you what a Vesperi truly is when we're not being diplomatic. Are you saying you've been holding back? Her smile was enigmatic. We all wear masks, Nathan, but if you're going to trust me with your soul, and that is what bonding means, you deserve to see what you're trusting. And if what I see frightens me, then you'll know and we'll have our answer. She moved toward the lab door. Think about it, you don't have to come if you're not ready. I'll be there, he said without hesitation. She paused at the threshold, her silhouette framed by the crimson corridor beyond. Your courage continues to amaze me, Dr. Cole. Until tomorrow, then. She vanished into the shadows, and Nathan stood in the empty lab, his heart pounding with anticipation and fear in equal measure. What had he just agreed to? But even as uncertainty gnawed at him, excitement built in his chest. Tomorrow he would see her truly, without the careful masks they both wore. Whether what he found would draw them together or push them apart, at least they would know. Outside, Proxima Noctis continued its eternal red pulse, ancient and indifferent to the brief bright dramas playing out in its shadow. But for Nathan, the universe had never felt more immediate, more alive with possibility. He had 24 hours to prepare himself for whatever came next. Nathan spent the next day oscillating between determination and doubt. His research suffered as his mind constantly wandered to what awaited him in Seraphine's quarters. He read more about Vesperi, searching for any information about their unmasked state. What he found was both fascinating and alarming. In their natural state, Vesperi were apparently far more intense than their diplomatic presentation suggested. Their predatory instincts were heightened, their sensory capabilities expanded, and their emotional broadcasting, usually carefully controlled, became overwhelming to other species. Several accounts from non-Vesperi described it as being in the presence of a beautiful storm, terrifying and mesmerizing simultaneously. By the time 2300 approached, Nathan's pulse was already elevated. He stood outside Seraphine's door for a full minute before pressing the entrance chime, telling himself this was research. This was important for understanding. This was not about the way his stomach fluttered when he thought of her. The door opened to absolute darkness. "Come in," her voice called from somewhere within, and it sounded different, richer, more layered, as if multiple voices spoke in harmony. Nathan stepped forward and the door closed behind him, plunging him into complete blackness. His human eyes strained uselessly against the dark. "I can't see anything," he said. "No, you can't. This is my world, Nathan." Complete darkness, no light to dilute sensation. Her voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "May I guide you?" "Please." Cool fingers found his hand, and she led him through the darkness with sure steps. He felt her beside him as a presence of coolness and that intoxicating scent, stronger now than he'd ever experienced. "Sit," she instructed, and he felt his legs touch a low surface. He sat, and the material beneath him seemed to respond to his weight, molding to support him perfectly. "Close your eyes," she said. "I know you can't see anyway, but closing them will help you feel instead of straining to see." He obeyed, and gradually other senses sharpened. He could hear her breathing, slow and deep, different from human respiration. He could smell her scent, complex layers revealing themselves. The night-blooming flowers, yes, but beneath that something almost electric, ozone-like. He could feel the air currents she created as she moved around him. "Better," she murmured approvingly. "Now, are you ready?" "Yes." "Keep your eyes closed." He heard her move, felt the air displacement as she positioned herself before him. Faint bioluminescence emanated from her skin, patterns that pulsed with her heartbeat, mapping the major vessels beneath her flesh. Her burgundy eyes seemed to emit their own light, and her fangs, fully extended now, gleamed with an almost pearlescent quality. She was, in a word, magnificent. "This is what I am," she said, and her voice resonated through his chest. "Not the controlled, careful version, not the diplomat. This is Vesperi unmasked. A predator, yes, but also this," she gestured to herself. "Beauty that thrives in darkness, power that moves through shadow, need that spans centuries." Nathan found his voice, though it came out hushed. "You're beautiful. I'm dangerous. In this state my control is lessened. My hunger, not for blood but for connection, is amplified. My senses are at their peak. I can hear your heart beating fast, can smell the adrenaline and attraction in your scent, can feel your emotions broadcasting your fascination and fear." She moved closer and her glow intensified. "Still not afraid." "Terrified," he admitted, "but not of you, of how much I want you." Her breath caught, that layered harmonious voice making even that sound musical. "Nathan, you asked me to see you truly. I have. And what I see isn't a monster or a predator. I see someone who has hidden themselves for so long they've forgotten they're beautiful. I see someone as lonely as I am, reaching across the void between species hoping to find connection." She knelt before him, and at this range her glow illuminated his features in soft purple-white light. "You see truly. More clearly than anyone has in centuries. Because I'm looking with curiosity, not fear." She reached up, her luminous fingers tracing his jaw. Where she touched, his skin tingled as if electricity passed between them. "Nathan, I must be honest with you about something." "What?" "In this state, with you this close, your emotions broadcasting so clearly, your desire for me evident in every biological signal you're giving." She paused and her fangs seemed to lengthen slightly. "My instinct to bond is overwhelming. I want to taste you, to share with you, to merge our essences in the way of my people. If you're not certain about this path, you should leave now. Because my control is slipping." Nathan's heart hammered. Here was the moment of choice. He could leave, return to safety, maintain the careful distance between their species. Or he could stay, embrace the unknown, risk everything for the possibility of unprecedented connection. He thought of all his research, all his years studying alien life from safe distances. Was that what he wanted, to always observe, never participate, to study connections without ever forming them? "I don't want to leave," he said. "You understand what staying means. I cannot guarantee I won't want to bite you, the urge is." She trembled slightly, her glow flickering. "Overwhelming. And if I wanted you to?" Her eyes widened and the luminescence across her skin flared. "You cannot mean that. The bond is permanent, once formed. Once formed, we carry pieces of each other forever. I know. You've explained it multiple times." Nathan reached up and took her glowing hand in his. "Seraphine, I've studied life across dozens of worlds. I've documented countless species and their bonding rituals, but I've never experienced connection for myself. I've been so busy observing that I forgot to live. And you want to live with me, a being who sees your very soul. I want to know you, really know you, and I want to be known in return." He lifted her hand to his lips, kissing her luminous knuckles. "I'm tired of studying love from outside, tired of analyzing connection without experiencing it. If you're offering me the chance to feel something real, something permanent, then yes. I accept." Her glow pulsed rapidly now, matching her quickening breath. "You would let me bite you, share your essence with me, become bonded to a vampire woman from a species your kind once thought were monsters. You're not a vampire. You're a Vesperi, and you're not a monster. You're beautiful and lonely and searching for the same thing I am." He met her glowing eyes steadily. "I'm ready, Seraphine, if you'll have me." She made a sound that was half laugh, half sob, her layered voice creating harmonics of pure emotion. "Nathan Cole, you impossible human, you wonderful, brave, brilliant man." She leaned forward and her cool lips brushed his forehead. "Yes, yes, I'll have you. I've waited 3 centuries for someone to see me as you do." They stayed there for a long moment, her kneeling before him, their hands intertwined, her glow washing over them both. Then she stood, her movements fluid and graceful in her unmasked state. "Not tonight," she said, and he heard the restraint it cost her. "The bond should not be formed in haste. You need time to be certain, truly certain, and I need to prepare. The bonding ritual requires proper setting, proper mindset." Her fangs glinted as she smiled. "Besides, anticipation makes the eventual connection sweeter." "When then?" 3 days. Give yourself time to think, to research, to be absolutely sure. If after 3 days you still want this, come to me. I'll prepare everything." She helped him to his feet. "But Nathan, if you have any doubts, any hesitation, do not come. I would rather live without you than have you regret choosing me." "I won't regret it. We'll see." But she was smiling, and her glow had softened to something warm rather than fierce. "Let me walk you to the door. You'll never find it in this darkness." She guided him back to the entrance, and when the door opened, the crimson corridor light seemed almost harsh after the soft glow of her natural luminescence. At the threshold, she released his hand. 3 days, she repeated. 3 days, he confirmed. He stepped into the corridor, and before the door closed, he looked back. She stood framed in darkness, her glow fading but not gone, her expression one of vulnerable hope. "Seraphine, thank you for showing me your true self. Thank you for seeing beauty instead of beast." The door began to close. "Dream of me, Nathan. Soon we'll share those dreams together." The door sealed, leaving him in the crimson corridor, his heart full and his mind made up. 3 days, 72 hours until his life changed forever. He walked back to his quarters in a daze, barely seeing the familiar corridors. What awaited him was terrifying: permanent bonding with an alien species, sharing his very soul, becoming part of something greater than himself. But what awaited him was also miraculous: connection beyond words, intimacy beyond physical, love that transcended species. As he lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, he realized he'd never been more certain of anything. In 3 days he would let a Vesperi woman bite him, share his essence, bond with him for eternity. And he couldn't wait. Outside his viewport, Proxima Noctis pulsed with its red light, ancient and unchanged. But inside Umbral Station, something unprecedented was about to occur: darkness and light, ancient and immediate, alien and human, preparing to merge into something entirely new. Nathan smiled in the darkness and closed his eyes. He would dream of her as she'd asked. Soon, they would dream together. 3 days passed in a blur of anticipation and preparation. Nathan read everything he could find about Vesperi bonding rituals, consulted with the station's medical AI about the physiological implications, and spent long hours simply sitting with his decision, testing it from every angle. His certainty never wavered. He and Seraphine maintained professional distance during this time. Her choice, he understood. She wanted him to decide without her influence, without the overwhelming presence of her unmasked self clouding his judgment. But she sent him small messages, brief and tender. "Thinking of you, your courage amazes me," soon. By the 3rd evening, Nathan was vibrating with nervous energy. He dressed simply but carefully, showered twice, and paced his quarters until the floor should have worn thin. At 22:95, he left for her quarters, arriving precisely at 2300. This time the door opened before he could chime. "I felt you coming," Seraphine's voice called from within, "your heartbeat announcing you from corridors away. Come in, Nathan." He stepped inside, and the door sealed behind him. The darkness was total again, but this time it felt welcoming rather than alarming. "I'm going to illuminate slightly," she said, "so you can see for this. The bonding should not be done in complete blindness. You deserve to see what you're choosing." Soft bioluminescence bloomed around the room, not from her this time, but from specially cultivated plants, their glow gentle and steady. In their light, Nathan saw that she'd transformed her quarters. The space was filled with soft surfaces, cushions and throws in deep purples and blacks. The air was scented with something sweet and calming, and the temperature had been adjusted to be warmer than before, more comfortable for his human physiology. And there, in the center of it all, stood Seraphine. She wore something flowing and dark, a garment that seemed made of shadow itself. Her hair was unbound, cascading down her back like a waterfall of night. Her feet were bare and her skin glowed faintly with that inner luminescence he'd seen before. "You came," she said, and her voice held wonder. "Of course I came. Did you doubt?" "I hoped, I feared." 3 centuries of disappointment makes hope difficult. She moved toward him with that fluid grace that was so distinctly hers. "Are you certain, Nathan? Absolutely certain. Once we begin, there is no stopping." He took her hands in his, feeling their coolness against his warmth. "I've never been more certain of anything. I want to know you, Seraphine. I want you to know me. I want to carry part of you always, and I want you to carry part of me." Her eyes glistened with moisture. Could Vesperi cry? Apparently so. "Then let us begin, come." She led him to a low couch where they could sit facing each other. The bioluminescent plants cast everything in soft purple-white glow, and in this light, she looked like something from a dream. "First," she said, settling across from him, "we share surface emotions. This is tradition, a preview of what the full bond will be. It ensures compatibility before permanent merging." She took his hands again. "I'll lower my shields first, let you feel me. Then you open to me. Ready?" Nathan nodded, his heart hammering. Seraphine closed her eyes and her glow intensified. Suddenly, Nathan felt her, not physically but emotionally. Her feelings washed over him. Anticipation so sharp it was almost painful, desire that had built for weeks, hope so fragile it made him ache, and beneath it all, love, tentative but real, growing stronger with each moment. "My God," he whispered, "I can feel you, you love me." Her eyes opened, burgundy depths swirling. "Yes, I do, now you open yourself." Nathan wasn't sure how to do this consciously, but he tried to relax, to let down whatever mental shields he carried. He thought of her, his fascination, his attraction, his growing love that he'd been afraid to name. Seraphine gasped and her grip on his hands tightened. "Nathan, your feelings, so bright, so fierce. It's like staring into a star." Tears streamed down her cheeks now. "You love me too." "Yes," he admitted aloud for the first time. "I love you, Seraphine, against all logic, across species barriers, despite everything that says I shouldn't. I love you." She laughed through her tears, the sound layered and beautiful. "Then we're compatible, the full bond will work." She released his hands and moved closer, adjusting their position so they sat side by side. "Now, the bite. Are you ready?" His heart hammered so loud he knew she could hear it clearly. "Yes." "The bite will be here." Her cool fingers traced his neck, just above the shoulder. "The vessels there connect to emotional centers. When my fangs pierce your skin, don't fight the sensation. Let it wash over you. Let me in." "What will you feel?" "Your essence rushing into me. Human emotion is intense. It may overwhelm me initially, but I want it. I want to feel your fire, your passion, your wonder." She leaned close, her lips near his ear. "And you'll feel me, my centuries, my darkness, my desperate love, will become part of each other." "I'm ready." "One more thing. As I bite, I'll share a phrase with you through the bond. Our traditional words. Repeat them in your mind. Soul to soul, darkness to light, now and forever one. Can you do this?" "Soul to soul, darkness to light, now and forever one," Nathan repeated. "Perfect." She shifted, positioning herself. Her cool lips brushed his neck and he felt her fangs graze his skin, not breaking it yet, just preparing. "I love you, Nathan Cole. Thank you for seeing me." "I love you, Seraphine of House Velcora. Thank you for choosing me." And then she bit. The initial sensation was sharp, twin points of pressure that pierced his skin with surgical precision. A brief flash of pain that immediately transformed into something else entirely. Warmth flooded from the bite site, racing through his bloodstream, and his consciousness exploded outward. Seraphine crashed into his awareness like a night sky suddenly filling with stars. He felt her centuries, the weight of time, the patience of ages, the wisdom earned through endless watching. He experienced her darkness not as absence but as presence, the comfort of shadow, the peace of quiet, the beauty of seeing with senses beyond sight. He tasted her loneliness, 300 years of searching, hoping, being disappointed. The ache of watching other Vesperi bond while she remained solitary. The growing fear that she would never find her match. And then her love for him, cautious at first, then building like a slow dawn until it blazed with fierce intensity. She loved his curiosity, his courage, his warmth. She loved the way he saw wonder instead of fear, beauty instead of monster. She loved his fire, his brilliant human fire that burned so brief but so bright. Simultaneously, he felt himself flowing into her. His passion, his wonder, his insatiable need to understand. His own loneliness, different from hers but equally deep, the isolation of seeing the universe differently from his peers. His fierce attachment to her, formed quickly as humans form attachments, burning with intensity that his short life made necessary. Their consciousnesses merged, danced, intertwined. He saw himself through her senses, warm and bright and achingly beautiful in his brief mortality. She felt herself through his perception, mysterious and magnificent and worthy of love. And threading through it all, that shared phrase. Soul to soul, darkness to light, now and forever one. The bite lasted perhaps 30 seconds, though it felt like lifetimes. When Seraphine finally withdrew her fangs, they were both trembling violently. She licked the wounds closed, her saliva containing healing agents, and then collapsed against him. They held each other, gasping, processing the enormity of what they'd shared. "I felt you," Nathan whispered, his voice shaking. "Everything. Your age, your wisdom, your beautiful darkness, and your love. Oh God, Seraphine, you love me so much." "And I felt you," she responded, equally trembling. "Your fire, your courage, your boundless curiosity. You love me too, not despite what I am, but because of it. You see my fangs as beautiful, not threatening. You see my darkness as comforting, not frightening. Because that's what they are to me." He pulled back to look at her, and the world seemed different now. He could sense her emotions as a subtle undertone to his own, could feel her contentment and wonder mixing with his. "We're connected now." "Forever," she confirmed, wonder in her voice. "I can feel you, Nathan, your presence in my mind like a warm ember glowing constantly. Even when we're apart, I'll feel you now. And I feel you, a cool, calming presence. Like shadows that soothe rather than frighten." He touched his neck where she'd bitten. "It doesn't hurt. It shouldn't. The bonding is meant to be pleasure, not pain." She smiled, and her fangs, those elegant ivory curves, seemed beautiful rather than threatening now. They were part of her, the instruments of their connection. "How do you feel?" Nathan took inventory. His senses seemed subtly enhanced. He could smell her scent more clearly, could feel the texture of her skin with greater sensitivity, could hear the soft hum of the station's systems more distinctly. And underlying everything was this awareness of her, this feeling of her presence in his consciousness. "I feel complete," he said honestly, "like I've been missing something my whole life and didn't know it until now." Seraphine's eyes filled with tears again. "Yes, that's exactly right, complete." She pulled him close and they held each other tightly. "We're bonded now, Nathan, truly bonded. You're part of my house, my family. And I'm part of your story, your brief, bright human life." "Our life," he corrected, "it's ours now." "Ours," she agreed, and the words seemed to glow with meaning. They sat together in the soft bioluminescent light, adjusting to their new reality. Occasionally one would sense an emotion from the other and comment on it, marveling at the connection. When Nathan felt a flash of Seraphine's ancient sorrow about something, she explained it was a memory from centuries ago, surfacing briefly. When she felt his sudden spike of joy, he explained he was just overwhelmed by happiness. "We should inform the station commander," Seraphine said eventually. "A Vesperi human bonding is significant. It will need to be documented." "Will there be problems, from your people, from mine?" She considered. "Some controversy, yes, But we're adults, the bonding was consensual and there's precedent, that case 3 decades ago. We won't be the first. But we'll be only the second. Yes, which makes us pioneers. She smiled. Appropriate, don't you think? A xenobiologist and a Vesperi liaison forging new connections between species. Nathan laughed. When you put it that way, it sounds almost scientific. Everything is scientific, my love. Even love itself is chemistry and neural pathways. But that doesn't make it less magical. She kissed him softly, her cool lips against his warm ones, and he felt her contentment through their bond. What happens now? He asked when they parted. Now we live. We continue our research, we build our relationship, we navigate the complications our bonding will create. And we do it together, carrying pieces of each other's souls. She traced his jaw with her cool fingers. Your fire will warm my darkness. My patience will balance your urgency. We'll be better together than we ever were apart. That sounds perfect. It won't always be perfect. We'll fight, we'll struggle, we'll have to learn each other's ways. A 3-century-old Vesperi and a 30-year-old human will have misunderstandings. But she was smiling. But we'll face them bonded, connected, and that makes all the difference. Nathan pulled her close again, marveling at the feeling of her in his arms and in his mind simultaneously. Outside the viewport, Proxima Noctis continued its ancient red pulse, unchanged by the momentous event that had occurred in its shadow. But for Nathan and Seraphine, everything had changed. They'd faced the question she'd first posed, "Do you want to feel my fangs, human?" And he'd answered yes, not out of recklessness but out of courage, out of love. Out of the understanding that some connections transcend species, culture, and fear. And now, bonded in soul, darkness merged with light, ancient with immediate, they would face the future together. Whatever challenges arose from their species, from the galaxy, from the complications of their unprecedented union, they would meet them as one. Two souls, bonded forever, proof that the universe's greatest discoveries come not from safe observation, but from brave participation. As they sat together in the soft glow, feeling each other's presence like music in their minds, both knew they'd made the right choice. Some destinies are worth the risk. Some loves transcend all boundaries. And some fangs, when welcomed rather than feared, become instruments not of danger but of the deepest possible connection. In the crimson shadow of a dying star, they'd found something eternal, and it was beautiful.